timeless voices of the eternal church.
Hippolytus and Pontius. Again and again, the Apostle Paul pleaded with the church to avoid quarrels and controversies. After nearly 1800 years, it may be Monday morning quarterbacking to say the controversies that caused Hippolytus to break away from the church were avoidable. But we can be sure that all divisions in the body of Christ grieved Jesus and delayed the fulfillment of his prayer in John 17. Hippolytus was a presbyter and theologian in Rome who strongly contended for the truth at the beginning of the 3rd century. He had been a student of Irenaeus, who was a disciple of Polycarp, who was a disciple of John, the beloved disciple of Jesus. But Hippolytus was also tended to be contentious. He fought most bitterly with a deacon named Callistus, whom he did not respect personally. They argued over absolution for certain sins, Hippolytus being more rigid and Callistus more forgiving, and the nature of the Trinity. Hippolytus was convinced of the Logos doctrine, which distinguished the persons of the Trinity, as opposed to modalism, which believed they were simply different manifestations of the same person. At the time, his bishop, Zephyrinus, did not see the issue as much of a threat and declined to take a stand. This infuriated Hippolytus, and he accused Zephyrinus of being an incompetent bishop manipulated by Callistus. The dispute broadened and the accusations flew. When Zephyrinus died in year 217, Callistus was selected over Hippolytus as the next bishop of Rome. That was too much for Hippolytus. He left the church and had himself declared bishop of Rome by his followers, thus dividing the church. He ended up saying he represented the true church, while the great majority of Roman Christians were merely of the school of Callistus. In retrospect, the Roman Catholic Church considers Hippolytus the first antipope. Some Protestants are not in agreement that the Bishop of Rome was yet considered pope over the whole church. They maintain that not until Stephen did the Bishop of Rome try to claim authority over other bishops, and it wasn't until the 300s that bishops were sometimes called pope. But all agree that Hippolytus certainly divided the Church of Rome. Hippolytus maintained this division through two successors of Callistus, Bishop Urban and Bishop Pontius. However, when the Roman Emperor Maximinus initiated his persecution of the church, directed primarily at the leadership, he rounded up both Hippolytus and Pontius as bishops and sent them off to work in the death mines on the island of Sardinia. To make the election of a new bishop possible, Pontius resigned his office immediately before departing. Forced labor is humbling. Before Hippolytus and Pontius died, sometime in year 236, they reconciled with one another. One can only imagine the circumstances or conversations between these two brothers. But Hippolytus, possibly through some correspondence or messenger, communicated his reconciliation to his followers in Rome and ended the schism in the church. One of the first things that Bishop Fabian of Rome did after being elected in 236 was retrieve the remains of both Hippolytus and Pontius from Sardinia on August 13 and have them interred with honor in the catacombs he was restoring. In spite of the schismatic influence, some historians consider Hippolytus the most important theologian and most prolific religious writer of the Roman Church prior to Constantine. However, though there may be circumstances or issues with which we cannot live in peace with others in the church, Jesus' prayer for unity reveals God's perfect will. My prayer for all of them is that they will be one, just as you and I are one. Father, that just as you are in me and I am in you, so they will be in us, and the world will believe you sent me. from John 17 verse 21. Paul wrote, "Again I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights. The Lord's servants must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone. They must be able to teach effectively and be patient with difficult people. They should gently teach those who oppose the truth. Perhaps God will change those people's hearts, and they will believe the truth." From 2 Timothy 2 verse 23 to 25.
Reading from the complete book of Christian heroes, over 200 stories of courageous people who suffered for Jesus, compiled by Dave and Nita Jackson. This is the Eternal Church of Jesus Christ, the record.